If you have a website and you want more traffic to your website, then you're going to need to listen to this episode. And even if you work for somebody that has a website, they're going to need more traffic to their website. There is so much gold in this episode with my guest, Vi Wickam, who is also my dear friend. And this is really an episode about tactical things that you can be doing to drive traffic, to stay relevant, to show up in front of your customers, to stand out from the competition. And it's also an episode about patience. I know sometimes we want the shortcut, the quick win, but it doesn't work that way, especially when it comes to marketing. I felt inspired from this episode and the things that Vi was teaching and saying. It really made me feel like I can implement what he was saying and really see amazing results for both this show as well as my business, Crystal Media. So I'm so excited for this episode. Plus, I just feel like you're going to be really inspired and have a lot of fun. Vi and I have a lot of fun on this episode. And if you are listening to this, Vi's actually with me in my home studio. And I feel like it's a little more fun to watch because we have a couple of dog appearances as well. So before we dive into this episode, I just want to read a little bit about Vi. Vi Wickam is a champion fiddler, inspired performer, digital marketing expert, and one of my dearest friends. He's the kind of guy that you would have over to share a beer with and talk about business, computers, the arts, or even politics, all of which I have talked to many times with Vi. He's been creating websites since AOL added internet. I mean, he has been in the website, internet marketing world. He builds websites, hosts them, runs Google ad campaigns, does SEO consulting and work. He is your web guy, and he's been my web guy for the past 10 plus years. On Vi's website, a little bit about him, he has this phrase that I just want to read word for word on the site. It says, if problems and trends are coins hidden under the sand, then I'm that guy on the beach with a metal detector. I unearthed the data that most business owners can't see because the majority of them work in their business, not on their business. As the saying goes, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. I find measurable ways to level up your business so you can focus on running it. We have linked to Vi in the show notes, so definitely go check him out if you need any help. And before we dive in, one last thing. I do want to share a listener review that I got recently from Zia Amazon, and they say, inspiring conversations and great host. I just started listening to the podcast, and the host is very relatable in so many ways. Conversations are very inspiring and introspective. I just want to say thank you so much of Zia Amazon for writing this review. If you enjoy this show, it would mean the world to me for you to go over to Apple, wherever you're listening to these episodes, and write your review. It helps the show, helps the rankings, and it would really mean the world to me. All right, let's dive into this week's episode. Are you ready to open up and talk about all things business? I'm Crystal Vilkaitis, a curious entrepreneur who loves talking about business, especially over a glass of wine. I started Crystal Uncorked to share open and honest conversations about my journey and talk to other entrepreneurs about their experiences. We pull back the curtain and talk about the highs and the lows. Wine isn't required, but is recommended. This is Crystal Uncorked. Oh my gosh, if you're watching this, I have a guest with me in person.
Oh my gosh.
It is my dear friend, Vi Wickam. Vi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! Okay, Woo! So let's talk about what we're drinking. Oh yeah, cheers. We're cheersing. Yes, cheers everybody.
Cheers.
What are we drinking?
This is a Montepulciano from Abruzzo.
Yes, and this is where you want to get your Montepulcianos from, which is Abruzzo. If we can see the bottle, kind of. We got quite the glare. But I know this. You got this at Costco, huh?
I did. It's Cantina Zaccagnini.
Costco has the best wines. They do such a great job.
And it's dock label.
And it's a dock label. So when we were in Italy for a month, not Vi and I, unfortunately, no. You weren't with me for a month, but Dustin and I were there. We stayed in Abruzzo, which is a tiny village, had the best, this is like where this grape is grown. This is where you want this type of wine. Can you tell I'm an expert?
You are such a professional.
Killing it. And well, I was going to say something else about that, but I don't know.
It's really good.
Oh, the dock label. We learned
Yes.
about that in Tuscany. That's really, you want to look for that with your Italian wines, especially certain kinds of wines.
Yes.
Right?
Well, when Christina and I went to Italy like 5 years ago, our host at our Airbnb said, you can buy any wine, the cheapest wine you can find in Italy. And if it's dock labeled, it'll be good. And so I took that as a challenge. And I said, let's find the cheapest dock labeled wine we can find and buy it and drink it. And we did. And it was €2.50 and it was amazing.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
It was so
okay,
good.
So great tip there. If you're out shopping at any liquor store
Yeah.
and you see an Italian wine, look for the dock label.
Look for the dock label. If it's dock label, it'll be good.
There you go. And that's the end of our show, everybody.
Thank you. Sayonara.
Oh, I love it. So much gold right off the bat. Okay, so Vi and I have known each other.
This is so good.
It's so good, right? I mean, I did my cheers and then I didn't even talk about it. I mean, you are so good at describing wines. So how would you describe this?
Oh, it's grapey.
Grapey.
No, it's very fruity. It's bright, but it's rich and round.
Ooh.
So there's a like really, it is like mature grape juice. Like it is really. It a lot of times wine will have a lot of tannins or be really kind of have that bitterness or astringentness. And this is really, hi there, buddy.
Oh my God, if you're watching the video, my dog just jumped up.
Hello.
And it's the loud one. So if you're hearing some snorts, it's going to be Barry. Sorry for the interruption here. We're all uncorked.
No, it's not got a lot of the tannins. It's not an aggressive wine. It's gentle and it's not sweet, but it's got a fruitiness to it. It's light,
definitely,
but it's round.
Yeah.
It's not. A lot of times, light wines will be very bright and kind of offensively green tasting.
Yeah.
And this is not green tasting at all. It's very much like it's ripe and fruity, and I think it's lovely.
I think it's
so good.
Lovely. And see what I mean by being great at describing wines, because I'm usually like, ooh, it's so good. It's so bold. It's so smooth.
It's so yummy.
Those are usually yummy. Those are my words.
Yummy is my favorite kind of wine.
Yes, I agree. So you got a great bottle. Thank you for bringing that.
Welcome.
Okay, so I have known Vi for about 13 years. He is
That's a long
time. And you're from Northern Colorado, just like me.
Grew up in Greeley. Yeah.
Yep.
Greality.
Oh, I haven't heard that, surprisingly.
Well, that's because you're a Lovelander.
Oh, well, that's probably because I'm in Loveland. And Vi married my dear friend, Christina, who is also on the show, episode 55, I believe. And so we just get together, we hang out, we play Catan.
And I met you the same night I met Christina.
Yes,
which
you
is
did.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, you sure did. I knew Christina, but I didn't know you then, obviously, because you were meeting me that night.
Hadn't met me yet.
See, killing it. And yeah, it was like kind of like a TEDx talk, Ignite, but it's like TEDx. And you were speaking, Christina was speaking. But something that I learned about you today through this Crystal Uncorked questionnaire I send is that you've never had a day job.
No, I've worked in my own businesses since I was 21 years old.
Okay, this is incredible. Tell me more about it.
So, the closest I had to a day job was when I was in college, while I was starting my first IT business, I waited tables.
Okay.
So I was going to school full time, like 15 to 17 hours. And I was waiting tables like 25 hours a week. And I was, had a baby on the way.
Yeah.
And I was starting my first business.
Oh my gosh.
So that was the last time I had an employer other than myself.
Wow. Bye. That's nuts.
And it wasn't full time.
Yeah.
It was only like 4 nights a week for like 6 hours a night.
Right. What restaurant were you at?
Lone Star.
Lone Star,
Yes.
I worked at Lone Star for 6
What?
days. 6 days.
6 days. I worked for 6 months.
Oh.
I had like 30 times as much Lone Star experience as you did.
That's so funny.
Did you do the dance?
Never got the chance.
You never got to do the dance?
I would have loved that. I probably would have stayed longer if we could do that.
If you got to do Darlin, I mean, that was the highlight of Lone Star.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. I was intimidated by all the different cuts of steak, and then I moved to Chili's, and then I was there for 4 years. So
that was serious.
That's right serious. I know. I was committed chili head, is what we call ourselves. But it's incredible that you didn't have a day job and that you started your first business. You said at 21 years old.
Yeah.
And what was that business?
So it was on-site computer solutions, and me and my buddy Cameron and my buddy Mark were going into our junior year of college, and or the end of our sophomore year, and we decided. Well, Cameron and I had talked about it when we were in high school. So Cameron and I were best buds from like 8th or 9th grade on through high school, and we ended up going to the same college. And when I got back from England, so I spent a semester in England my sophomore year, and I came back, there was no job for me in the computer department. Right. I had worked in academic computing, my freshman year, and worked in the labs and, did the repair-y stuff, and I enjoyed it. I came back and they're like, well, we don't have any jobs in academic computing, but you can work in the registrar's office. Working in the registrar's office was like punching up somebody's ID and looking at their class schedule and shredding papers, and was not exactly inspiring for me. Nope. Not the best work study experience of my life. No. So Cameron and I got to talking. We were like, we should do that idea we talked about and start a computer repair company.
I love it.
And it kind of took off. So by the time I graduated, I was making enough money that I was like, I had some job offers to go work for like government contractors and Motorola and places like that. And I was like, I think I'm just going to do my own thing.
Yeah.
So no day job.
So you went right into your own thing. Now, is that the business that you sold?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty bold of like, you're getting these contracts that are big contracts there's kind of that safety.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. I had some good offers coming straight out of school. But when I was thinking about it, I was in this place where it was a beautiful day. I'm talking on my 900 megahertz phone and I'm talking to one of my customers, and I'm thinking, I'm getting paid for this. And then I was thinking about if I went to work for a government contractor, which was, my best offer I had, I'm going to be like going into a cubicle and spending like 8 or 9 hours a day in a cubicle and being fast tracked to management in 5 years. And I was like, it sounds like a drag.
Yeah, totally.
So I told him no.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you just stuck with what you were doing.
I stuck with what I was doing and grew that. I think that year we did like $100,000 in revenue, and I was able to pay myself $36,000 my first year, half out of school.
That is incredible.
And then, I stayed with that business until 2009 when I moved back to Colorado, and I met you in 2010 and Christina, and
man,
it's all downhill from there.
It all down, whatever. Punch you. I mean, it's pretty neat that I love just the risk taking in you, the commitment and the observation that this or that, and what do I truly want? Mm-hmm. And you really checked in with what you want, which I think a lot of people will also look at like, well, everybody else is telling me to do all these other things. Like, how did your family feel when you chose to stick with your job and turn down the offers?
Well, I didn't actually ask them.
You're like, I don't care.
I was like, this is what I want to do. I figured that within 5 years, I could be paying myself as much as they were paying me.
Yep.
And I was, and so from that perspective, I was valuing my freedom and my autonomy higher than what I was going to make financially in this very moment. Mm-hmm. And, at least subconsciously, I was valuing my time more than, than I would have been had I taken that job, because they pretty much own you,
Right.
When you go to work as an employee. And
Yeah.
I kind of have authority issues. I don't know if you know this about me yet.
I do. My listeners might not, but
I'm not so big on getting bossed around.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of entrepreneurs are not, right? I'm the same way. I do not want to be taking orders from other people, and we like to
That's
create.
why we worked at Lone Star and Chili's, was so we could take orders from other people.
Yeah, exactly. Right? We had to get by. Okay, something that I love about you that I would say is one of your unique abilities and your superpowers is you are so positive and so open-minded. And so Vi does my website. He's hosted my website for
13 years.
Well, yeah.
Or 14 years.
Even, my first business.
Yeah.
And then my dog is just being so crazy.
Oh, Bear.
And then for Crystal Media, he's hosted that for our 10-year here. And I will email Vi and I'll be like, hey, is this possible? And the response is always, anything is possible. And it is always with like love and genuine, like seriously, anything's possible. Yeah. It's just a matter of like, okay, here's how we can get there. What are you willing? Can you do, is it the time? Is it sometimes, especially if you've got a budget, exactly, time or money. But I have worked with a lot of web developers. I've worked with software engineers who don't have that same attitude, who are like, is that possible? No, go fuck yourself. I don't want to help you. Like
I'm not doing that. Maybe somebody can do that.
Sure, somebody can figure that out, but I don't want to do that. And are you nuts? Like, don't ask me any more questions. I mean, seriously, I've had those people.
Well, there are a lot of lazy people in the world.
Well, there is that. But where did that come from with you? Did you learn that as a child? Did you just have this, where did it come from? Because I feel like that's a unique ability.
That's an interesting thing, because I've never really thought about that, because if it's possible, it's possible. So it's just a question of how hard is it going to be to do it? Mm-hmm. And really, anything can be done. It's just a question of, are you willing to put in the time and effort or money to get it done?
Right.
And I guess, my parents probably instilled in me, a lot of possibility. And my dad instilled in me a lot of, they can't tell you what you can and can't do. Good. So, I remember particularly my dad saying, if somebody tells you something can't be done, it's probably because they've never tried.
Yes.
So there's a lot of that, you can't tell me what to do. I can do anything.
Yeah. So your parents had a big influence.
Absolutely. Yeah. Both my parents had a big influence. But as far as the, you can't tell me what I can and can't do, I think my dad was the king of you can't tell me what I can do.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful though, because I feel like it, especially in your line of work.
So good.
I know it's so good. I mean, I didn't even say what Vi does, but I'll say it in the intro so people will know. But like from an e-com perspective, I mean, you have to figure it out. There are so many problems. You're a problem solver. You run around all day solving problems.
And it's fun. That's the beauty, is that I get to always be learning something new. Mm-hmm. And that really, I can credit my mom for that she really instilled lifelong learning in me. And, when I would ask her questions as a kid, like, how does a bee fly or something like that? She'd say, well, let's go look that up in the encyclopedia. Yeah. And we'd go look it up in the encyclopedia. It was the prehistoric Googling.
Exactly. Yeah. Was for the
For those of you youngins out there, before the Google, there was the encyclopedia.
Yeah. Now they just GTS. Google that shit.
Google that shit. And my mom would said that I used to say, then after a little while, she'd say something and I'd say, well, let's look that up in the encyclopedia. The encyclopedia.
Oh my God, I love it. This is so random, but it's funny that you used the bee, how does a bee fly example, because I vividly remember one time I was in my aunt's car. I was in the passenger seat. I was probably 5 or 6. And I asked, Aunt Kim, how would you describe a bee? And so I don't really remember her response. Black and yellow was probably in there and honey. But
Striped.
it's so funny
Yeah,
that,
that is funny.
we are curious minds,
Curious
you and
minds.
I.
Absolutely.
We love learning. That's so something that we have in common.
Definitely drives me.
Yeah. What have you're into audiobooks, podcasts. Vi gives me the best books. What are you reading or listening to in the past 30 days that you're loving?
Oh, I've had 2 in the last 30 days. Currently, I'm listening to The Spirit of Music by Victor Wooten, which is the sequel to The Music Lesson, The Music Lesson is probably my favorite music book ever. It's written as a story, more of like a novel. And it's just a beautiful story of a musician's relationship with music. And music is personified. The other one that I listened to most recently that I finished is called Wonderworks. And it's by Angus Fletcher. And it is the 25 most powerful inventions in literature.
Wow.
And it's really, really cool. And it's kind of like how to impact people's psychology with storytelling. Powerful.
I have to listen or read
It's like a 15-hour audiobook, so it's really long.
Okay.
But it's really interesting and really powerful. I'm probably going to listen to it again, which is a rarity for me. Very seldom do I listen to anything or watch anything more than once.
Okay. You're just kind of one and done.
One and done most of the time.
Yeah. But this one, okay, so I have to check that out.
And it's really deep and really detailed. There's so much there to consume that I will probably listen to it again.
Okay. So we'll link to that. And I am kind of the same one and done, but something that I've read, I'm listening to again, and I ordered the book to also read it, is $100 Million Offers.
Oh.
And I got 2 books because I was going to, surprise, I'm giving one to you. And now Florence is here.
Hello,
Man,
Florence.
Hey, people, we're trying to record, dogs.
Come here.
But that's a good one too. Here's the other.
Say hi. Say hi, Phil.
Oh, yeah. Face. So this is an episode. You should definitely be watching this one because there's cute dogs, there's colorful mics, and there's 2 of us. Does it get better?
It doesn't get better than that.
Okay, so by going back to the e-commerce world, so many more people sell online now because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
And
explosion in busyness.
Oh yeah, seriously. But there's also a lot of pain with that because it's like now I have a website. Now
I got to maintain the website.
Yeah. And I have to get people to my website, where like a physical storefront, you can count on some people driving by, walking by, depending on your location.
If you have a good location.
Exactly. So for people who have a website, which is probably every single person listening to this, because every business owner needs to have a website.
Except for you random non-business owners.
Yeah,
cheers to you too.
Yeah,
love you too.
There are a couple of you out there.
You might be future business owners.
If you are a future business owner, exactly.
Welcome, future business owners.
To freedom.
Welcome to freedom and challenge.
Oh, that's perfect. Yes. I know somebody recently said a meme of like, I left my 9-to-5 job to work 24/7 for starting a business.
That's right.
Right? It's pretty true.
My favorite version of that is the best thing about being self-employed is you get to choose which 80 hours a week you work.
Oh, yeah. Right. That's true. So true. And there is benefit to that.
There is.
For sure. But what would you say, like, do you have, I'm sure that you could do like a 10-day course on how to drive traffic to a website.
Oh, for sure.
But my curiosity is, like, if somebody has this website and they're getting, 100 to 1,000 views, I feel like that's kind of on the smaller end for.
But that's when you look at the web, what most people don't realize is probably 95% of websites get less than 10 visits a day.
Whoa, say that again.
Less than 10 visits a day. Probably 90 or 95% of the websites out there.
10 visits a day.
Because most people make something and then they leave it out there.
Yep.
So, maybe it's only 80% or 85%, but the vast majority of websites have very little traffic.
Yeah. Okay. So that's great for people to know, because I think we can feel like, oh, I spent all this money creating this website and now nobody's coming to me. Or like, oh, I'm only getting like 50 visitors a day. If you are,
You're above average.
You're above average, which is exciting.
It's kind of like when I saw the CD Baby independent musician survey, and this was 5 or 10 years ago, the average musician was selling less, the average independent musician was selling less than 10 albums a year.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that was the average. If you were selling 25 a year, you were in the top 25%.
Okay. Wow.
I was like,
25.
what?
Yeah.
I was like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's true that the vast majority of people don't capitalize on the investment they make.
Exactly. And Vi's bringing up music, which we're going to talk about, because he does play fiddle and he's pretty darn good, if I do say so myself.
Around.
How many times have you said that?
1,000 times at least.
Times 1,000? Like, that is so funny. But people we compare ourselves. We feel like we're always lacking, like we're not really there. I even heard a recent stat with podcasting. Like there are, I think it was, I'm going to butcher this a little bit. I shared it on Instagram, but like perfect. Like 90% of podcasts don't film past episode 7.
Oh, I'm sure that's true.
Yeah.
I've had so many that I subscribe to, and I listened to like the first 5 or the first 10, and then that was it. There was none more.
Yeah.
And like, unless you put in that hard work, you put in the time for those exponential little bits to grow. Mm-hmm. Like anything worth doing is worth doing over and over and over again until you get good at it.
Mm-hmm. And so would you say that would be one of your starting points or tips for somebody who has their website and they're trying to get some traffic there? I mean, I feel like consistency and patience is key.
Oh, for sure. So, I mean, if you're a business and you're creating a website, the foundational element is actually.
May I?
Absolutely. This is so good.
I know.
I picked well.
You picked really well.
Is what you call get listed. The having a solid local search submission happening. So you've got to be out there in those directories that matter, which includes Google My Business and Facebook and Yelp, and then 100 or 1,000 other small ones.
Yeah.
And whether it's Get Listed or it's Moz or whatever service you use, there's a handful of services that do that. But you need to have one of those to set that foundational level.
Okay.
And, I do recommend that your Google My Business and your Facebook are kind of actively managed rather than just, using a service like Get Listed.
Right. And what you mean by that is like posting.
You should be posting things to them.
Because you can actually post on your Google profile. I think people don't always know that. So actually posting to the Google profile, obviously posting to your Facebook page, but then they have a foundation for all these other sites, the right information and
got accurate information out there. And those are citations matter. So
what does that mean?
So a citation is a mention of you that doesn't include a link. So links matter the most. Citations matter the second most. So anytime you're mentioned, Google counts that as value for you. So if you're mentioned in a newspaper article or a press release somewhere, even if they don't link to you, it still increases your credibility in the eyes of Google.
Okay, so let me understand. If you're listed through Get Listed, where we have you're on 60 plus platforms. Now, your name, your business name, and what you do and but let's just say your business name is listed on these 60 plus. Just the fact that your name is on there, Google's going to like seeing that, and that can help you.
And if it's your name with your address, with your phone number and your website, which most of those platforms are, that website link has extra bonus value. But just having a citation gives you foundational credibility in the eyes of Google.
Love it.
Okay. So having that foundation laid is kind of the foundation. That's
Right.
where you start.
The foundation is the foundation. That's a
It's
quote
so
graphic,
crazy.
people. This is
It's so
crazy.
crazy. But most people never get there.
That's
Most
so
websites
true.
don't ever even lay a foundation.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you have to lay content.
Mm.
So this includes the content of the pages of the site, but then also blogging or creating articles,
Okay.
and people think of blogging as like what they started out as, your weblog, this is my diary online.
Right.
But blogging today really is answering the questions people are asking.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are asking you a question about, the topic that your business serves, or they're asking Google that question, answer that question. If you answer that question, then people are like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. I should hire them.
Right. Exactly. And so blogging is not dead.
No, blogging will never be dead. Whether, no, having videos or podcasts is really just alternate forms of blogging.
True.
It's the same thing. It's just whether, is this in a media that's audio media or video media or text media? When it comes to Google, Google loves text.
Okay.
And so if you're going to do a podcast or a video blog, like use it on all of them. Get that blog or get that video transcribed, get that audio transcribed, and have audio transcriptions to go along with your video and your audio so that you can have it on YouTube and you can have it on Spotify and all the audio platforms. And you have it posted to your blog with an audio transcription, because all those words add to the heft of your reputation. It adds to your authority in the eyes of Google.
So now I'm feeling like this is so
this
good.
This is SEO 105 here.
Well, I know, but it's so good. I'm feeling like I need to have my podcast transcribed now and put them on my, okay, so there's the thing. But I just want to help anybody that's listening to this. So we go back to the 10 visits a day. You create one piece of content that's ideally does have some of the audio so it can go to the audio platforms. If you want the video, not everybody's comfortable in video, and that's okay. But if you are comfortable, you can do video.
The best way is if you can do something that goes on all the platforms.
Go on all. Yeah. So let's say you do video, strip the audio, and then we've got the text. We're looking at the 10 visits a day can easily start to multiply with your consistency and your patience, where you are beating out all those 80%-ish people that are not doing that work, that are barely getting the traffic. And that's where you start showing up first.
I mean, a good example of this is I wrote a post about the difference between a violin and a fiddle.
Okay.
And I did this 10, 12 years ago. So I did my Ignite speech that night we met on the difference between a violin and a fiddle, where I wooed my wife.
I love it.
And she's like, you cheated.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to play the fiddle when you're supposed to be talking words.
Exactly. I know. Right. Yeah, because it's everybody has to speak. He gets up there and plays, and it's
for half the time. I fiddled for half the time.
Yeah. I feel like it's a little.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
For me, it was fun, and that's why I did it.
Exactly. Love that.
So I took that talk, I made a blog post on my website, and I included that video as part of the blog post. And then I wrote about the difference between a violin and a fiddle, and how, the word fiddle comes from the German word and the word violin comes from the Italian word. And, people generally consider a fiddle to be folk music and a violin to be classical music. And, then I included some jokes about the difference between a violin and a fiddle, which was in my video or my Ignite speech as well. And I get 10 visits a day on that post every day for the last 15 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Every day on buythefiddler.com, I get about 10 visits a day for that specific post.
Wow.
And that's, 10,000 visits now at this point.
I mean, if that's not a great example, I don't know what is. I love that.
Yeah, and it's cumulative.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
you aren't going to write any one post that's going to get 1,000 views a day.
Right.
You're going to write 1,000 posts that each get 10 views a day, or if you're lucky, it gets 10 views a day. And if you just write a good post, it might get 1 to 3.
Yeah.
And you do that every day or every week. And 50 posts later, all of a sudden, you're like, wow, now I'm getting 300 views a day instead of 50.
Yep.
Or I'm getting 400 views a day. And you do that for another 50 posts. And all of a sudden now you're like, oh, now I'm getting 500 or 700.
Yes.
And then it starts to snowball and you start to build momentum.
Which I love that word. We love when we have momentum. But this is so important. And I don't like you said 1,000 posts. People can think, oh my God, 1,000 posts. Are you insane? I don't have time to write one post. I just want to share that Seth Godin, he is an amazing marketer. I feel like we both
kind of the
like
biggest
him.
badass.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like he's just
among nerds. He's the nerdiest badass in the world.
He's incredible. Awesome. And he's been writing a blog a day for like years and years and years. And
probably 25 years.
25 years.
It's been since the 90s, I think.
Okay, so obviously pioneer in this online marketing.
Pioneer in blogging, for sure.
And it will be like a paragraph.
Yeah.
We do not, I think people get so caught up, myself included, in it's got to be this epic blog
and
post.
He emails that shit every day.
Does he?
Yes. So Christina subscribes to his blog via email. So that's another thing, another format.
Yes, Vi.
So if you've got your blog post, send it out via email. He's got his Akimbo podcast, so that's like, he's got the same kind of ideas that he's been talking about, these same ideas for 25 years. Mm-hmm. And he talks about it a little differently every day. He says it in the way that he's inspired today. He interviews people periodically. Sometimes he just speaks from his heart, but he just does it, and he does the work every stinking day.
Yep. Exactly. You can cuss here, but if you don't,
I already did.
Okay.
I mean, I've cussed like 3 or 4 times already. I'm a rabid cusser here.
Crazy.
Swearing up a storm.
Oh my God. But seriously.
Holy poop.
Okay. I don't think I've ever heard anyone ever say that.
I had to.
That is amazing. This is amazing. Okay. There's so much gold, though, in what you're talking about with Seth and what you're talking about with these blogs. Because if we're doing the fact that he's been saying the same thing for 25 years, what I've been talking to Pauline about and what I'm realizing is it's just a few of the same things that have worked forever.
Yeah.
But we want the newest thing.
Everybody's looking for the new magic.
Or the shortcut.
Yeah. And the truth is, like, shortcuts only work for a minute and then they don't work anymore.
Yes.
I mean, that, like, the same things that worked for real in SEO 25 years ago are still the things that work today. But like 25 years ago, you could get away with keyword stuffing a page, and Google wasn't smart enough to know. And I had clients who were like, oh yeah, I had this other guy redesign my page and, now it's really SEO'd. And, I was like, oh, this is terrible. Like they've put all these keywords in hidden text at the bottom of your page. And sure enough, like 3 years later, Google just kicks them out of the ranking altogether. And, they got a 3-year run of outsmarting Google until Google kicked them to page 17 and they're never to be seen again.
Oh, yeah.
Like once Google's disowned you, you're in shit creek.
Yeah, no kidding. And I imagine then you're also kind of like starting over. It's might
worse than starting from scratch because Google's like, you're penalized. Oh. Google hates you now.
Yeah, so don't cheat the system. And I feel like none of my listeners are cheaters. I feel like they're willing to do the work, which I really appreciate about them. But I feel like we all, myself included, are
everybody likes an easy shortcut.
Yeah.
There aren't.
Yeah.
There aren't any. Like never bet on outsmarting people who buy servers by the ton.
Yeah.
You're not going to win.
No.
Google's hiring every smart person they can find.
Servers by the ton. My brain had to think about that for a second. Did you notice? I was like, I had to visualize that. That's a lot of fucking servers.
That's a lot of fucking servers.
Oh, okay. So Vi, this is I feel in the internet marketing world, there's so many things that are changing. Obviously, it moves really fast, but a lot of the privacy policy and different regulations, you have to have the cookies thing on your site. Open rates really don't matter anymore with your email because, I would love to talk about that because you have some metrics, but with Google specifically, it's my understanding that they're reporting if people aren't necessarily opening the email. So the metrics of tracking on it is off. The reason I'm bringing all this up, and then we can talk about the email specifically, but I'm just hearing about all these changes, and 2024, I think Google's making a really big change too.
Every year, Google's making all kinds of changes.
So do we need to panic? Is there something that we need to...
Definitely panic. Panicking helps everything.
Panicking helps everything with our hair on fire. Yes.
Light our hair on fire and run around like crazy.
Okay, so we don't need to panic. Yeah. And is there anything that's coming that we're we really need to know about, or are we all pretty good here?
Well, here are the things that matter.
Okay.
I mean, and these are fundamental things to think about. Google always wants you to be transparent with your customers. They want you to be serving their interests, and they want you to be answering their questions. So exactly how that's done today changes over time. So, in 2017 or 18, Google started prioritizing sites that use SSL, so secure sockets layer. So if you're not serving your site securely, Google penalizes you today. They have for 4 or 5 years now. But a lot of sites out there still aren't using SSL. So but that's been a good idea for a long time. It's just been that it used to cost you $100 a year to add an SSL certificate to your site, and now it's free.
Okay.
So now if you have hosting that supports free SSL, you can have free SSL certificates. And if you don't, you can get one for $6 a year and buy it for 5 years at a time and be fine.
Okay.
But that's an example of creating trust. GDPR is an example of creating trust. Privacy policies are an example of creating trust. Google wants you to behave in a trustworthy manner. Mm-hmm. So if you're not doing that, you're trying to game Google, screw you, go jump in a lake, you're being dishonest. Google doesn't want you to be dishonest. I don't want you to be dishonest as a customer. So Google's trying to act in the behalf of the customer.
Yep.
On behalf of the customer. They want you to be treating the customer right. So if you're not trying to do that, Google's going to penalize you. And that's always been the case. It's just Google gets perpetually smarter about it.
Right.
And now there are laws like GDPR, and California's introduced their kind of pseudo GDPR related laws.
Right.
And then there's also the California law that's about, if you have products that might have cancer-causing things in them, that you have to notify them. And, some of those things work to the customer's benefit. That one particularly has ended up with online retailers that have tons of products just putting that warning on everything. So it hasn't really served the customer's best interest because now there's warnings on everything, whether it has cancer-causing things or not, because they're just I'll just put it everywhere so that they can, so California doesn't sue me.
Right, exactly. We everything for California.
I love California.
Yeah. There's pluses and minuses, I'll tell you what. Okay. So this is so incredibly helpful for people that are listening because it's so helpful. I mean, you read these things, you see the headlines, you see the panic, you see the clickbait shit that's like, oh, are you protected and are you doing that? Okay, let's real quickly talk about the email open rates.
Okay. So like from a fundamental standpoint, email open rates matter.
Yeah.
And the number one most important thing is the sender. And so if your audience trusts you and they believe that you're providing something of value, they're more likely to open your emails. I have maybe 3 email newsletters that I open every week. I may not open immediately, but I always open them and I always read them. The rest of them I read sporadically and I unsubscribe all over the place, but I still have, a bunch of things that show up without me asking for them.
Right.
So I think that's just something to keep in mind is like, if you are always looking to give value in what you're creating, people will appreciate it. And not everybody will appreciate it because, I'm not for everybody. You're not for everybody. But there will be a group of people who think what you're doing is interesting and cool.
We talked about music. I mean, my God, we've talked about a lot on this episode, but I want to circle back all the bases in Vi Wickam's world. I want to circle back to music. So you were in the national fiddle
contest.
Fiddle contest. Yeah. You've been fiddling all your life?
Since I was maybe 7 or 8 years old.
Obviously, like not you were out of the womb with your tiny baby.
And right out of the womb.
Playing Georgia or Devil Went Down to Georgia. Yeah. But he really like send me a video that we can link to that people can listen to because you're so good.
Yeah. If you go to vithefiddler.com or youtube.com/vithefiddler.
Yeah.
Or, just Google Vi the Fiddler. You will find, 30 or 40 pages of me.
Yep. Yeah, you're optimized.
I am well optimized. I know my SEO.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I'm easy to find online.
Yeah. I mean, it's so fun to hear you play. You're so talented. And part of this world that you're in is that you're part of the Grammys, right? Like you're a member of the
Grammy Academy.
So I feel like, number one, I've told you this before, I really want to go to the Grammys. So like, how can we make that happen? And then a very selfish question, obviously. And that's all I really want to know. How do we make that happen?
So basically, if I recall correctly, Grammy tickets are like between $250 and $500 a piece.
Okay.
So we just
buy
because I'm an Academy member, I get 2 tickets.
Okay. I love it
if I buy them.
So we need to go to the Grammys, and then we should do an episode from the Grammys.
Wouldn't that be fun? That would be pretty fun.
Okay. So stay tuned for that. But what's your favorite song to play?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's not about the particular song. It's about the engagement of the people I'm playing for. And, when I'm playing a song and I can see that there's somebody in the audience that's really connected to it, that's the song right there. And it could be any song, usually it's not the super fast, super technical song. I mean, that can be fun and you can get people kicking their, clapping their hands and stomping their feet and getting really excited. And that's a fun moment. But like when you make somebody cry, or you see their face and they're just like, they're in that moment, they're connected to the song. That's the kind of thing. There was a time when I was like 13 or 14 years old and our family band played for the Colorado Gun Collectors Convention.
Wow.
It was this, like all these rich rancher cowboy kind of types. And,
yeah, I love it.
Our family band was the entertainment for their banquet and there was this old guy who he requested Red River Valley, which is an old kind of cowboy vocal song. It's this, and I was like, okay. And in my mind, I'm thinking, that's an easy song. Anybody could play that song. And then I was like, well, he asked for it, so I'll play it as well as I can. And I played it. And I looked out and he was crying. And this is like this grizzled old man, but he's got his fancy cowboy hat on and his big belt buckle and, his bolo tie. And I'm like, but I see this old crusty looking guy and he's got a tear coming down his eye. And I thought about the words to it. And, it's about lost love. It's about, they say you're leaving. And from this valley, they say you're going. I'll miss your bright eyes and sweet smile. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if he had some girl when he was a teenager or in his 20s or something, that he was in love with, who left, who that was their song or something.
For sure.
But who knows what really was, what it meant to him. But for me, there was this pivotal moment where it was like, I'd been playing all the hard, fancy songs, trying to impress everybody. And, I was all in my head and my ego and look how fancy, how good I am. And then I play this baby song, this easy, simple melody that's just pretty, and it connected with this guy. And I made this old guy cry. And then he gave me a $20 tip.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I'm going to play all the simple songs that people want to hear.
But okay, as I'm hearing you tell this story, I know this is sort of dorky, but it so makes me think about marketing. Where we're like the fancy, high technical, all the
SEO.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
But it goes, what's the simple
answer the questions.
Brilliant at the basics.
Yep.
And that simple thing that will connect with people. Yeah. So much, it's about being you.
It's about being
you. Don't have to change that.
It's about doing, serving people.
Yes.
It's not about showing how awesome I am. It's about what can I do to help you, to answer the questions that you have, to help you get the next thing that you need to take the next steps in your business or in your life. And ultimately, if I can do that in my life, I'll be astoundingly successful, no matter who I am. For you out there, if you are trying to take care of people and you're being kind and caring and you're being of service, there's nothing more to do. Do it in the way that is most inspiring to you. But if you can do that, you've won life.
Yeah. I need to hear that. That was so good, Vi. That's a perfect place for us to wrap this.
Let's wrap this.
How can people learn more about you?
You can go to viwickam.com or vithefiddler.com. viwickam.com if you want to see my webby stuff.
Yep.
My internet stuff. And if you want to see my music stuff, go to vithefiddler.com. Or you can go to vi.expert, and then you can click on either of the links there.
Vi.expert. He has a business card that says just expert. That's the Vi Wickam expert. And you just fill in the blank, whatever you want it to be. So we have Vi.expert. Vi. One last cheers. This has seriously been such a great conversation.
It's been lovely. Fantastic. Mainly because you're an amazing host.
Oh, thank you for saying. I really just love having these conversations. And we will do a part 2 because I feel like there's so many other things we could talk about.
It's already almost been an hour.
And part 1, yeah, I know. Well, yeah, that's because there's so much to talk about. But everybody, thank you for listening or watching.
Thank you all. You're amazing.
Yes, so amazing. And if you want to share one of your top takeaways, I want to know. DM me on Instagram. Tell me what one of your takeaways was.
Post it in the comments below this video.
Yeah, post it because we want Vi to see it. I was going to say you could DM me, but then it's private. We want Vi to see it.
Make it public. Share it with the world.
Yeah.
Be loud and proud.
Yeah, I like that. Be loud and proud. And I will see you on the next See You. Cheers, Vi. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. See you next time.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, if you are a retail store owner, I would love to see you at Evolve. This is my in-person marketing conference happening April 26th and 27th, 2023 in Denver, Colorado at the Gaylord Rockies, which is a stunning venue. You get to spend 2 days with me and my team and keynote speakers, as well as other retailers looking to evolve their marketing, business, and lives. It's an intimate event. We only have 200 tickets available, and we've already sold a lot of those seats already. So this event will sell out. Do not delay because we have special pricing depending on when you hear this and when you sign up. And I would love to see you in that room. So go to crystalmediaco.com/evolve. That's crystalmediaco.com/evolve to get your ticket. And I would love to see you there. And thank you for listening to this episode. Bye.